All right. Welcome back, everybody, to What the Fuck, A Fool's Quest, Season 7. So happy to be back.
Woo!
Yay.
Yeah.
That doesn't come through.
Yeah, it doesn't come.
But now I've got to add the sound clip. Thanks a lot. Everybody's going to be like, what the fuck is he talking about?
He's got to edit 5
don't
times,
hear
one
anything.
for each of us.
All right, so we had Season 5, and then we had a quick break. We had a 1.5 in the middle there. And now we are back with Nico DMing Season 7, the Scholastic Wars. So let me first introduce Nico Rodriguez
Hello, everybody.
as your faithful DM. And to his left, which you guys can't see on the podcast, but don't worry about it. Jesse Wicks playing.
I'm Elmer. I'm not Elmer this time. I'm
Nope.
Bill. I'm Bill.
You had one job.
That's not true. I had 2. That's how I got confused.
Damn it, he didn't study. I didn't know there was a test.
Jesse, who are you playing, dude?
I'm playing Bill Quiverlance.
Bill Quiverlance. Good God.
Correct. That's what I said the first time. I don't know.
It's, I would agree with you. I don't know anyone who would argue. Tony Kinney is playing.
Eddie Falzone.
True.
Yep.
Michael Cole's playing.
Uorag.
Uorag. And then Jess Owen is not here today, but she's playing Adira Glow.
Yeah.
We'll get to talking about that in a minute. For Scholastic Wars, let's do a brief kind of rundown of the setting, because it's kind of done. Well, I shouldn't say kind of. It is quite different than most any other campaigns or stories that I've heard, which I appreciate. Nico, do you want to kind of give a very quick rundown of kind of like the magic system and what the setting's like?
Yeah, so the game system we're using is the Dungeon World system, which is a more simplified system. We took a look at a handful of different systems when we were thinking about switching from D&D, and we chose this one because it kind of thrives on the whole rule of cool idea, like the way you do things, abilities, spells, attacks. It's very, very vague in the book, and it allows you to tell the story as players in the DM. So we've kind of gone with that system. As far as the setting goes, we took a different approach. We went with a party that is already established. So everybody that's in this is they're the highest group of classmen at the Illusion Academy in a world where magicians can only cast one class of spell. Eddie is kind of like the head guy. He casts illusion magic. Bill Quiverlance also casts some illusion magic. And then we've got a Barbarian, which is Adira Glow, and a Druid shapeshifter, which is Uorag. These guys are already the higher group classmen. They've been together for years. They already know each other. There's established bonds and relationships. So it doesn't have that weird, awkward, let's get to know each other's characters and hopefully we will all get along and find a reason to be together. We're starting this campaign off with all of these people already know each other and they already have a very good foundation built and reasons for them to be a party. So they are wrapping up their tenure at the Illusion Academy, and that is where the campaign starts in a nation only for illusionists.
Before we get into this next, thank you, Nico. Before we jump into this next question, I want to let everyone know who's listening. This is kind of the first portion of the What the Fuck episode, bonus episode. You will be hearing as the general public. For the rest of this episode and for much, much more, consider joining the Patreon, subscribing to Patreon. To get all of the extra content that we have, the extra shows, the RSS feeds, more stuff that I'll kind of run down a little bit. But this is a question from Mead, who is a part of our Discord community, and which he and many others can actually watch this What the Fuck bonus episode happen live in our Discord as a Patreon subber. So Mead asks, what inspired the limited magic system decision? So the fact that they can only do one school of magic.
Yeah, so in the previous campaign, campaign 1.5, which is the one Tony wrote, we kind of talk about how the world of Euphrae was broken and threw them into this fourth age. And the big plot point from the first campaign was the Book of Magic. So Tony and I had this idea a long time ago when we started the show to have a Book of Magic which has all 8 infinite pages, for each school of magic. At the end, when they saved the day, they did so by breaking that book and keeping it so that the big bad guy, Master Duché from Season 1, couldn't use it to become a god. When they broke the book, they broke magic altogether, and each page got separated from the book and cast out into the world of Euphrae. And with that separation for each page, each school of magic was separated, and casters could only cast one school of magic, which has been really fun to try and play through. I know that Jesse had a lot of fun in campaign 1.5 trying to put some stuff together. There is a caveat to that. Because warlocks use patrons from other universes that are attached to this universe with Euphrae in it, they get to access multiple schools of magic. And because of that, they are hunted by all of the schools who typically hate them.
He's different, get him!
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of what inspired it. The characters from the very first campaign broke the Book of Magic, which separated all the schools out. And then in campaign 1.5, that was getting established and the world was being built around these schools of magic. And in campaign 2, each school is its own nation now. And they're just very limited and very sectioned off.
I like to think of it as the unbinding with a capital U. Because, books have a binding and, magic was bound together. So, I don't know if that's written down anywhere, but... Shamas, write that down.
We should.
Oh, God!
I will say it's kind of frustrating that the book got torn asunder right after we put it back together.
Kind of switching gears for a quick second. Bill Quiverlance, you have him playing as a bard, correct?
Yes.
It's kind of a...
He's more like
a shift.
the bard.
Yeah, the bard.
The bard.
So Mead wants to know, did you know beforehand, Jesse, which instrument you were going to use?
So I had an idea. It was supposed to be silly for a while. I didn't decide on the symbols until just a couple days before we actually recorded the first episode because there were just so many fun options.
I gotta say, we informed him that there's a tradition in AFQ of bards playing ridiculous instruments, and so he wasn't allowed to choose something easy like a drum or a lute.
Yeah,
right.
Unless he wanted to be the lamest bard.
We had
made fun of
bagpipes
forever.
Bagpipes and kazoos.
Accordion.
Now cymbals. Accordion. Oh, man. Awesome. Which parts... So Lucas from our Discord community wants to know, which parts of the world would you like to dive into more? This will go kind of... we'll start with the players first. So Mike, what do you think?
Well, there's still quite a bit of map that we haven't touched on yet. And it's still early in campaign 2, so I'm not sure exactly which direction we're going to be headed. But yeah, if you look at the map, there's a lot of there's a lot of potential there. So, I don't have any particular spot in general that I'd like to check out. Just I'm looking forward to what's coming up.
Gotcha. What about you, Tony?
For me, it's the islands and just right in the middle of the Sun-Touched Sea. Like, I don't know. I like island stuff. I think that's pretty cool.
The Shards of Isan?
Yeah, the
Is
Shards
that
of
the one?
Isan, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to check that out. See what's there. I feel like it's probably dinosaurs.
I get the island thing because in season 5 the villain stayed on an island for I don't know most of that season.
We blew it up.
And then we blew that motherfucker up. Jesse, what about you, buddy?
I'm mostly just looking forward to like getting to navigate the different kingdoms and how all the different personalities work out once we get into the other magical territories. I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
I feel like it'd be spoilers to ask you, Nico, but I'm gonna do it anyways. Is there anything in particular that you are excited about or can talk about?
Yeah, I mean, I would say 2 quick things, and I won't put spoilers into it if I can. But first, if you've never listened to our show and this is your first season, I let the players kind of do whatever the fuck they want, and then there's just kind of repercussions that happen. So in the first campaign, they traveled all over and went to random places that I was not expecting. So that is totally possible here. Or for them to just skip entire countries where they were supposed to go. That also happens. So I'm curious where they're going to go. But the 2 places that I'd be super interested in them finding is... one, the necromancy nation, where that school is, I think is a pretty cool idea, and I'd like to see how they navigate that nation if they make it there. And 2, where the island or where Eterno is for our Ethereal Embrace campaign. So they kind of teased at going to that place in campaign 1. And I'm really curious if they could get there and find it and what it would be like. So yeah, I think those would be my 2.
Nico, Mead wants to know what is something that you learned from the last campaign that you have either applied or going to apply to this campaign or have adapted from for this campaign.
I think I learned a lot from the first campaign. First, having 2 different parties in the same group, or in the same campaign, doing different things is virtually impossible. So, while that was really cool, I'm never doing that again.
It was very ambitious. Yeah.
But I mean, ultimately, I think last time I did a lot of over preparing and I really didn't need to, because you guys will get stuck on random concepts and you will just beat them until they're dead and in the ground.
Players
don't. I literally don't have to do
Players don't do that. They never fixate on the smallest thing.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's like I'm trying to open the door.
Put it in your mouth. What was session 0 like for you guys this time around? It wasn't really recorded, so like character creation, campaign creation. How did you guys kind of figure out roles, especially with the limited magic system? Like, what did that look like for you guys?
So we had a lot of time to think about roles and stuff because Nico kind of told us the idea behind the season. I think he gave us like 2 months to think it over before we were going to start recording. We knew we had to have a magic user. We had to choose which nation we wanted to be from, all that stuff. And we just kind of discussed most of it over the course of 2 months or so before we even got to session 0. And then the actual session 0 scarred Uorag.
Yeah. Yeah. Our session 0 was basically just a gathering so that we could try out the combat system and see how that worked out and get a feel for the mechanics of it. And it was just a quick little skirmish between our group and another group. And my first time out with Uorag, crit failed the dice, and crit failed 3 times in a row. And if you followed the show at all, anytime that we get a critical hit or a critical miss, he wants us to roll again. And if we do it 3 times in a row, then something over the top and, epic or terribly horrendous happens. And I failed 3 in a row, and that's why Uorag has part of his left ear missing. It was sheared off from a whip from the little peon group that we were after his first time out. So, I mean, he already had the tell of having antlers in all of his forms, but now he has the missing part of his ear. And that wasn't explained in the show at all, but it brought up. So,
but yeah, it's been mentioned a time or two.
Yep.
It was mentioned.
So this is behind the scenes stuff. Good stuff.
That does go to. Yeah.
Yes.
It's bonus for a reason.
I do have to note with the 3 crits rule that we have, we're not on a D20 system anymore. We're on a D6 system. It's 2D6.
Yeah.
And a crit is a 11 or 12, or a crit fail is a 2 or a 3. So I don't know how much more likely that is to happen. I wish we had like a crap stealer or something in here to tell us the odds. But I think it's more likely.
It's 3 and 36.
There we go.
Yeah.
Instead
1
of
and 12.
I'd say it's a critical, like everybody is familiar with.
1 and 12 instead of 1 and 20.
But it's just like you either do really, really well or you do really, really bad.
That kind of goes towards one of the things I was going to bring up a little bit later was, Mike, it seems like you're continuing your terrible roll streak from Malfader to Uorag.
Yeah, yes. Well, if anything, I am consistent.
So, as far as the new RPG system, what do you guys have as far as pros and cons now that you've been able to kind of play it versus D&D 5th edition?
It's so much more flexible. It's and I think you can hear that in the episodes too. Like we're just making stuff up, and the moves are really, I guess, vague, and deliberately so that it leaves you that narrative freedom kind of to do things the way you want to do them, to do the things you want your character to do instead of how rigid D&D is. And don't get me wrong, I like D&D. D20 systems are fun too, but this is a lot more flexible.
I would say that considering that we're all fairly experienced gamers, that lends itself to making the system work. So it's kind of like we've been there, done that, know what we can and can't do in general with a system. So we're constantly pushing the envelopes, and it's just there as like the little bumper pads on the side to keep us within a certain range. It's good for storytelling.
Yeah,
allows a lot of flexibility and free range.
I also think it's much more deadly. So in this game,
absolutely,
you have your health pool, and it does not go up as you level up. I mean, whatever it is what it is, and that's just. I mean, so a couple good rolls from a bad guy will literally kill anyone in this game, which makes it. I mean, just every single fight is now risky. It's very risky. So it makes players being overly zealous to get into combat kind of not a thing. It just doesn't happen.
Got to second guess it and use your brain.
Yeah. Even the barbarian makes sure that it's time before she blows.
True.
So I guess one last question before we wrap up the this portion of this episode. What about actual play do you guys think is good for storytelling as far as this medium goes, and where do you think it falls short? Nico, let's start with you.
I like So we've got both, right? We've got the ISFET archives, which is our audio drama that we put together here, which is just storytelling, and then we've got actual play. So we definitely know both sides of this question. And what I really like about actual play is that you're telling the story together. And then there's also the element of the randomness of the dice. I've found that as we've played more, especially with the podcast, it's less and less about actually just playing the game, and it's more about telling the story together. And when you have dice to help make these decisions, things can get really, really chaotic. And they're just, because it's not scripted, right? It's just fun. It's funny when things are funny. It's dramatic when things are dramatic. It's scary when things are scary. So there's that feeling that kind of spreads across the group when you're sitting around a table doing an actual play together like this, I think.
Yeah.
Anybody have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I think where actual play falls short sometimes can be the pacing, because like we were just joking about a couple of minutes ago, sometimes the players fixate on stuff that's just nothing. We absolutely do that as players, and it's not anything. We just, I don't know, want it to be or think it's gonna be, or but it can definitely mess with the pacing of the story.
And if I may, I think also where it kind of falls short is like if you want to tell a good story to people who are listening consistently, and have something that can be engaging every time and in depth every time, you kind of do have to break a cardinal rule and meta, I think, a little bit, to try and get to try and stay on the plot, try and like stay where the DM wants you to go, so that there can be that consistency. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I feel like you kind of do have to work more in depth with your DM to make sure that you're not taking too long on an island.
Yeah.
And then finally blow it up. That was kind of supposed to be a throw off side quest. As far as all that goes, we are gonna wrap this portion up. If you liked what you guys heard on here, please do consider joining our Patreon, subscribing. If you'd like to stay up to date with all of our shows, future content, conventions, and events that we are attending, be sure to follow on our social media. If you'd like to talk to us directly, hang out, play games, and maybe even do one-shots with us, be sure to join our ever-growing Discord community. We have actual play podcasts, as we mentioned before, such as A Fool's Quest and Ethereal Embrace. We do audio dramas, such as ISFET Archives, and even a live stream Crown of the Oathbreaker game on Twitch. We also have special content for our amazing patrons, who we absolutely love. Patreon subscribers get all the RSS feeds for early releases of podcasts, ad-free listening, and special roles and privileges in our Discord community. We also have an amazing merch store for all of our shows and a monthly newsletter to keep you all up to date on all the happenings with Creative Typo, including deep dive exposés of the cast and crew. All of this and more can be found at www.creativetypo.com. We look forward to seeing you all there. Thank you.